I'm about to reveal something that will completely change the way you see your relationships. There's a psychological technique that manipulators use without you realizing it, and statistically, if you're over 25 years old, you've already been a victim of it at least once. But here's the worst part. The worst part is that most manipulated people never discover it until it's too late, until they've already lost something valuable. Their confidence, their money, their time, or even their mental health. Today, you're going to learn exactly how covert manipulation works, those invisible tactics that operate under your consciousness radar. And at the end of this video, I'm going to teach you a 15-second test you can do today to discover if someone close to you is manipulating you. So stick around until the end because that technique could save you from years of confusion. The 3 invisible signs of manipulation, 1 to 630. Let's get straight to the point. Manipulators don't look like movie villains. They don't have sinister background music or wear masks. In fact, many times they seem like the most normal, kindest, most reasonable people in the world. And that's precisely why they work so well. Let me explain the 3 signs that psychology experts identify as absolute red flags. First sign, the erosion of your reality. Imagine this. You have a conversation with someone where you clearly agreed on something. A week later, that person flatly denies it. And not only do they deny it, they tell you with complete calm, "I never said that. I think you're remembering it wrong." Or worse, "You always do this. You distort everything I say." Here's where it gets interesting from a neurological standpoint. Your brain hates uncertainty. When there's a contradiction between your memory and someone else's confident, calm version, your mind enters a state of cognitive dissonance. And here's the trick. It's easier for your brain to doubt yourself than to enter direct conflict with someone speaking with authority. Manipulators understand this instinctively. They don't need to convince you they're right. They only need to plant the seed of doubt. Over time, this creates a devastating effect. You start questioning yourself constantly. Before expressing what you feel, you ask yourself, am I exaggerating? Am I misinterpreting this? You start seeking external validation for everything. And most dangerously, you stop trusting your own intuition. This has a name in psychology: systematic emotional invalidation. And let me be clear, whoever repeatedly invalidates your experience isn't confused. They're training you to doubt yourself. Second sign, the hijacking of time. Manipulators hate when you think clearly. Why? Because critical thinking is their #1 enemy. So what do? They create artificial urgency. Typical phrases that should set off all your alarms. You have to decide now. It's today or never. If you really loved me, you wouldn't hesitate. You're overcomplicating something that's very simple. Let me tell you what happens in your brain when you're pressured like this. Under emotional stress, your amygdala, that primitive part of the brain responsible for survival, takes control. Your prefrontal cortex, where logic, reasoning, and analysis live, literally partially shuts down. In that altered state, you confuse urgency with importance. You confuse pressure with love. You confuse guilt with responsibility. And here's the uncomfortable truth nobody tells you. Truly important decisions never need haste. If someone gets upset, offended, or punishes you because you asked for time to think, that person doesn't want your best decision. They want your immediate obedience. Think about it this way. Would a professional doctor pressure you to sign surgical consent without reading it? Would a good financial advisor force you to invest your savings without reviewing it calmly? Of course not. So why would someone who claims to care about you pressure you to make important emotional decisions without time to reflect? Third sign, the strategic victim game. This is probably the most sophisticated and difficult tactic to detect. It works like this. First, the manipulator shows themselves as vulnerable, fragile, hurt. They tell you their suffering story. Nobody understands me. Everyone always ends up abandoning me. I've suffered so much in life. Your natural empathy activates. You lower your guard. You think, this person has been through a lot. I should be understanding. And just when you're in that receptive state, comes the twist. Suddenly, you're responsible for their pain. You're the one not doing enough. You're insensitive, cold, selfish. And if you react by defending yourself, the script instantly changes. See? I knew I couldn't trust you. I knew you'd disappoint me like everyone else. This works because it exploits something very deep in us, our fear of being a bad person. Psychologically, we prefer to give in, sacrifice ourselves, betray our own boundaries rather than carry the social guilt of seeming insensitive. But here's the critical detail. A person who's genuinely suffering seeks support. A manipulator uses their pain as currency. If someone constantly uses their past suffering to control your present decisions, they're not seeking healing. They're seeking emotional dominance. Hey, if this video is opening your eyes, if you're starting to connect dots you didn't see before, let me ask you a favor. Hit that like button right now. That tells YouTube this content is valuable and helps more people see it. People who might be trapped in toxic relationships without knowing it. And if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, this is the perfect moment. Here we talk without filters about practical psychology, about real human relationships, about how to protect your mind in a world full of manipulation. So subscribe and turn on the notification bell. And if while watching this you're thinking, this sounds familiar, I think this is happening to me, leave me a comment. You don't have to share personal details if you don't want to, but write me even just, I relate to this. Trust me, just putting it into words is already a powerful first step toward recovering your mental clarity. Now yes, let's get to the part 1 promised. Let's see how to break this cycle. Alright, here comes the game changer. I'm going to give you the most powerful tool to detect a manipulator in seconds. And then I'll show you exactly how to protect yourself once you've identified them. The 15-second boundary test. Here's how it works. Set a small boundary. Not something aggressive or confrontational. Something simple and reasonable. For example, not right now, I need some time. I'm not comfortable with that. I'd prefer to do it differently. I need to think about this. Now, pay close attention to what happens next. This is critical. A manipulator doesn't hear the boundary as information. They interpret it as a threat. They interpret it as an attack on their control. Typical manipulator reactions you'll see. Reaction 1. Exaggerated offense. They act as if you've committed an unforgivable sin. I can't believe you'd say that to me. After everything I've done for you. Their emotional response is completely disproportionate to your simple, reasonable request. Reaction 2. Guilt deployment. They immediately flip the script to make you feel bad. I guess my feelings don't matter. You're being selfish. I never thought you'd treat me this way. Notice how quickly your boundary becomes about their victimhood. Reaction 3. Minimization. They dismiss your boundary as invalid. You're being too sensitive. That's ridiculous. You're making a big deal out of nothing. They don't respect your right to have limits. Reaction 4. Subject change. They completely ignore what you said and pivot to something else, usually something that puts you on the defensive. Your boundary just vanishes. Reaction 5. Silent punishment. They withdraw, give you the cold shoulder, withhold affection. The message is clear. You'll pay for having boundaries. Now contrast this with how an emotionally healthy person responds to a boundary. They might feel uncomfortable. They might even feel disappointed. But here's the key difference. They respect it. They might say, okay, I understand. Or, can we talk about why you feel that way? They treat your boundary as valid information, not as a personal attack. Why does this test work so perfectly? Because a manipulator's entire strategy depends on you not having clear boundaries. Your boundaries are obstacles to their control. An emotionally healthy person can coexist with your boundaries. A manipulator needs to destroy them. Remember this principle. Whoever doesn't respect your small boundaries will never respect your big ones. How to break the manipulation cycle, the 3-step shield. Now that you know how to identify them, let's talk about protection. Here's what actually works. Step 1. Stop over-explaining. This is huge. When you set a boundary, your instinct is to justify it, to explain yourself, to make them understand. Here's the truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your boundaries. When you over-explain, you're actually giving the manipulator ammunition. Every reason you give is something they can argue against, twist, or use to make you feel guilty. Instead, use simple, non-negotiable statements. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available for that. No, thank you. I've made my decision. Notice there's no because in those statements. No justification. No opening for debate. This isn't about being rude. It's about being clear. Step 2. Master the power of calm. Here's something manipulators absolutely hate. Emotional neutrality. They need your emotional reaction. Your anger, your guilt, your fear, your confusion. That's their fuel. That's how they know they have power over you. When you respond with calm, steady composure, you cut off their supply. I'm not talking about being cold or robotic. I'm talking about regulated, grounded presence. Example. They say, "You're so selfish. You never think about anyone but yourself." Emotional reaction. "What? How dare you? After everything I do for you, now you're in their game." Calm response. "I hear that you're upset. My decision stands." Then you disengage. No defense. No counterattack. No emotional escalation. Just clarity and boundary. Step 3. Document and observe patterns. Manipulators rely on your faulty memory and emotional confusion. Here's a powerful counter-strategy. Start keeping a simple log. You don't need anything fancy. Just notes on your phone. When something feels off, write down what was said, what was agreed upon, how you felt, what happened next. Patterns become undeniable when you see them written down. You can't gaslight yourself when you have evidence. And here's what you'll notice. Manipulative people are incredibly consistent. The tactics might vary slightly, but the pattern repeats. This log also serves another purpose. It helps you trust yourself again. Remember, manipulation's primary goal is to make you doubt your perception. Evidence rebuilds that trust. The truth about empathy and manipulation. Let me address something important. If you're watching this and recognizing these patterns, there's a good chance you're a highly empathetic person. Maybe you're emotionally deep, intuitive, or naturally caring. And you might be thinking, is there something wrong with me? Why do I keep attracting these people? Listen carefully. You're not attracting manipulators because you're weak. You're attracting them because you have something valuable they want to exploit. Your empathy, your kindness, your willingness to give people the benefit of the doubt. Manipulators specifically target good people. Not because good people are stupid, but because good people assume others operate with the same integrity they do. You think, if I'm misunderstanding, I should give them another chance. A manipulator sees that and thinks, perfect, another opportunity. This isn't a flaw in your character. It's actually evidence of your strength. The solution isn't to become cold or cynical. The solution is to add discernment to your empathy, to recognize that not everyone deserves unlimited access to your emotional generosity. What happens when you hold firm? Here's what you need to prepare for. When you start setting boundaries with a manipulator, when you stop reacting emotionally, when you stand firm, they will escalate. This is called an extinction burst in psychology. The tactics that used to work aren't working anymore, so they try harder. They might become more aggressive, play the victim, even harder, bring in other people to pressure you, make threats, love bomb you with sudden affection, claim they're changing. This escalation is actually a good sign. It means your boundaries are working. It means they're losing control. The question is, will you hold firm or will you fold under the pressure? This is the moment that determines everything. If you fold, you've just taught them that all they need to do is escalate harder next time. If you hold firm, you've shown them you can't be manipulated anymore. Many manipulative relationships end at this point. And that's not a tragedy. That's liberation. Look, if you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who values truth over comfort. Someone who's willing to look at difficult realities instead of pretending everything is fine. That takes courage. Real courage. Here's what I want you to remember from this video. Confusion is not a natural state in healthy relationships. If you're constantly confused about where you stand with someone, if you're always questioning your perception, if you feel like you're walking on eggshells, that's information. That's your nervous system telling you something is wrong. Trust that signal. Your intuition isn't broken. It's probably the only thing that's still working correctly. One more thing. Healing from manipulation isn't just about cutting people off. It's about rebuilding your relationship with yourself. It's about learning to trust your perception again, to honor your feelings, to believe that your boundaries matter. That work takes time and it's worth every second. Before you go, I need you to do something. If this video helped you, if it gave you clarity or validation or strength, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that subscribe button. This is exactly the kind of content we create here. Real psychology, no sugarcoating, practical tools you can use immediately. And share this video. Send it to someone who needs to hear this. You might literally change someone's life by doing that. You might be the person who helps them finally see what's been happening. Drop a comment and let me know. What was your biggest takeaway? What clicked for you? I read every single comment, and your insights help other people in this community too. Remember, you deserve relationships where you feel safe to be yourself, where your boundaries are respected, where your reality isn't constantly questioned. That's not asking for too much. That's asking for basic human dignity.